I call Kumaran.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Honiton and Sidmouth. We usually sit together on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and nowhere is global cooperation more important than in climate work. I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Orkney and Shetland for securing this important debate and his brilliant speech, which really eloquently set out the case for why this is so important. My Honourable friend for Stafford, not to be confused with Stratford, has spoken about microplastics. One of our honourable friends last year, the Honourable Member for Stroud, had a debate on this very topic where many of us spoke. And following that, last November, ahead of the previous round of treaty negotiations in Busan, honourable members from the House came together to debate this same issue. And now, at this final round of negotiations, we're coming back together. Countries are on the verge of finalising a potentially powerful international agreement, but its impact will be limited unless it addresses the root of the problem, plastic production. UN estimates suggest that in the 2.5 years since the negotiations where this treaty started, globally we have produced over 1 billion metric tonnes of plastic. The scale is staggering, almost unimaginable. But one thing is clear, no amount of recycling and reuse can keep up with the scale of plastic waste we're producing. And if we don't act collectively and urgently, the crisis will only escalate. Plastic production is projected to triple by 2060. Our climate, our ecosystems, our planet cannot cope. The member for Orkney mentioned the impact to our ecosystem and our beaches. And we've heard from my honourable friend for Ealing mentioning single-use items such as disposable vapes and disposable fans. One is dumped in Britain every 90 seconds. Most of them end up in the global south, in landfills, risking massive environmental damage. I'm proud to have sat on the legislation committee led by the Minister here today to ban this, and that's the Labour government taking real action. Madam Deputy Speaker, there are interest groups working to undermine our ambition. Having participated in international biodiversity and climate talks, both in my previous role before I entered this House and since, I've seen firsthand what this looks like. Voices in the room determined to stall talks and undermine global and national ambition. The shocking truth, as we've heard, 220 fossil fuel lobbyists were present at the last round of talks for the Plastics Treaty. Taken together, fossil fuel and chemical industry lobbyists would have been the single largest delegation present, larger than the EU and larger than all its member states' delegations, larger than all of Latin America. The fossil fuel industries outnumbered delegates from the Pacific small island states 2-1. These are nations already seeing the effects of marine plastic pollution and already paying the price for the cost of our inaction. We cannot allow the voice of the fossil fuel industry to be louder than the cry of our planet, or more influential than the testimony of science. And we cannot allow it to be more powerful than the voices of our constituents and those wanting to create a more sustainable future for future generations. In London, we've shown that another future is possible, but it does require bold leadership. And we are one such example of this. We're the world-leading city in eliminating single-use plastics from large sports and music venues, including Abervoyage in my own constituency, to locally led movements like Plastic Free Forestgate, who work with businesses on the high street to get rid of single-use plastic items, and similarly Plastic Free Roman Road. I also have some eco-warriors in one of my local schools in Maryland. Madam Deputy Speaker, last week I met with a group of constituents from Stratford and Bow at the Climate Coalition lobby in Parliament. Mary told me that she was there to lobby for an end to our dependency on fossil fuels. She was there for her 4 grandchildren, for their futures. Madam Deputy Speaker, my constituents are clear. The time to act is now. We must put people on our planet before polluting industries. I've spoken about this before, but in my constituency we have an Earthshot prize-winning company, Notpla. At the last time I mentioned them in Parliament, they had single-handedly removed 21 million items of single-use plastic and counting using their innovative seaweed-based alternative. Today, that number has risen to 26 million items. This ambition exists, but we all need to seize this moment, because the cost of inaction is mass climate displacement, environmental destruction, and worsening global instability. I want to thank the Minister and the Government for their continued commitment to the UK's global leadership, pushing for an ambitious treaty, and I join all members from across the House in calling for all Member States to agree to legally binding measures addressing the production and consumption of plastic, and finally to deliver the treaty that meets the scale of the crisis for our planet.